Hello everybody, and welcome back to the LJL Officially Unofficial. Week 7, Game 4 is coming right up. I am your host, Alex, otherwise known as Lexi. God, I can't do it. I do go by Mars1 on the internet. I am, of course, joined by...
The annoying, the intimidating.
Okay, well that's it. Hapgood Brothers. They decided their introduction for this one. Initialize and Nymera. Vaguely introduce yourselves, I guess, if you have to.
It's the psychological warfare we're employing during the countdown now. We're just like, we don't. If you ever watched Critical Role as a show, where like just before they come live, they just scream massive amounts of expletives which won't make it to live air, just to try and throw off the producer. That's what we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, they sure are.
That's great introduction. Thank you for that.
So,
Yeah,
going into this game, yes, our last game is going to be the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming, facing off against Rascal Jesters. Rascal Jesters looking to tie things up in a very nice bow, just like V3 do, and go 7-7, whereas the Hawks are fighting to even have the opportunity to still try and make that playoffs. If they do make that playoffs, they do join that huge group of 3 teams, making it 4, half of all of our teams in 8th place. That'll be a huge group. Potential for them to break out, but then Axis and Crest do get to decide a lot of those fates.
They absolutely do. So, backs against the wall for the Hawks on one side. We've talked a lot about them in the pre-game and in the post-game for the other game that they played. There's a lot of warning signs on a lot of players and their play style, which need to be solved. Just turned around like that, it's going to be a very difficult game.
Yes, it is.
On the other side, Rascal Jesters, a shot at greatness here, actually. If they go 2-0 here at the end of the split, they're going to set themselves up very nicely for playoffs, particularly as one of the teams where I very much like their drafting strategy. I think they're a very intriguing team to watch draft. Sometimes it doesn't work out, but it always has a very unique flavor to it. When that comes into seeding in playoffs, it means that they are more likely to get their choice of side. They get to prepare for that even more. So I think this game, if they win it, very important for the Jesters.
Big time. And on that kind of note as well, I want to give some credit out to, or give some warning out versus the Hawks. You know, we've seen Dasher in previous games kind of get himself in a touch of trouble. If he does get counter-ganked, and Hachimecha did that very well in the first game of the day, kind of got on top of people earlier on. And if he can kind of return that favour, counter-gank Dash, who's going in a bit aggressively, I could see potentially the Hawks in a bit of trouble up in that top side.
Yeah, and with that in mind, I think it'll be interesting to really watch this bot lane. Art and Vivid have been playing very well over the last few weeks, and really do seem they are getting somewhat a return to form, compared to Honey and Pooh, who began out as arguably one of the top bot lanes in these first few weeks. Yeah, and now spam those question mark pings over them, because their lane has been a cause for contention there, and a cause for some questionable positioning by those 2 players.
Something to be said about that, I think. Art had a very good game. Well, I mean, he just played the role against Sengoku. It was a very clean game from their whole team. That was a holistic performance, and I think that Rascal Jester, besides Art, they don't tend to have like the standout performance player. They don't have like the Aria of your CGA. They don't have, you know, like your Ebby of DFM when they start popping off, or Boogie of V3. These kind of players. When they tend to succeed, it just tends to be through the unit and the collective rather, kind of moving forward as one and finding these advantages rather than the individual player kind of grabbing the game by the scruff of its neck. Art is one guy who is capable of doing that, though. In the early weeks, he was the guy that was doing that. At the end of the split, though, I've liked how they've started being more cohesive, though.
And a bit of recap over when Rascal Jesters and Hawks first faced off, as this the second time as the teams, repeat myself, only play twice, not 3 times like a lot of other leagues. They only do a best of 2 through a mix of the first few weeks, and then they repeat in the latter weeks. This was a game that the Hawks took with rather decisive fashion, only Art really putting up a fight on his Ashe, going 6-2-1. This was a game where Honey went Deathless, going 6-0-9 on his Aphelios, Ramene going 6-1-8 on his Azir, and Tussle going 3-3-6 on his Aatrox. No, that was Dasher. Tussle going 3-1-11 on Gragas, and Kokok having arguably his worst game, going 0-6-8 on Ornn, and missing some of those really Ornn important team fights.
It's also worth noting that Pooh on his Braum that game had one of the best support games that we'd seen this split. He was peeling like an absolute monster. No one could get through to the backline. Art was playing Ashe, and arguably got outscaled by the Aphelios, and then had to deal with another hyperscaling carry of the Azir as well.
Yeah.
Did admirably even in the losing game, and it very much was a losing game. The Hawks looked very strong and very decisive in that game, though. So we'd like to see a return to that kind of form from the perspective of a Hawks fan. Definitely don't want to see that if you're a Rascal Jester fan.
Nope.
No, you want to just get that very high placement locked up, nice in a little deep bow, and go, okay, V3, match us, or don't, and we'll just take your spot instead, and you can have 4th place. That's fine by us. Go ahead. That's okay. We'll allow that. We'll allow that. But with all that said, I think it's about time that we do go into this game for pick and ban phase and see how they actually decide to play this game and if Aphelios is banned or not. So in 3, 2, 1, let's go on to that pick and ban phase.
Well, we are into pick and ban. Thank you once again, Mass1. And here we are into the last game we'll be casting today. It'll be the Hawks on blue side. And they have Dasher in the top lane, Tussle in the jungle. We've got Ramane in the mid lane. It's Honey and Pooh at the bot lane for them as well.
And for their second game of the day, it's the Rascal Jesters on the red side. Cog in top lane, Hatchametcha in the jungle, Ninja in the mid lane, Art in bot lane, and Vivid as the support.
We've got loads of bans in through already. That was thick and fast. We've got Set, Mordekaiser, Ornn, all taken away from Cog probably. And on the other side, it is the LeBlanc ban against Ramane. Even the loss looked pretty good on it. And the Aphelios are such a strong champion.
I think that LeBlanc is a very good ban against Ramane. It's the pick which he has had the most success on in my eyes in terms of an individual performance. And he can tear open games from the laning phase through into the mid and late. Game 2. So the Jarvan's the last man from the Rascal Jesters.
And we'll see what the first pick here will be for the Hawks. All on Aphelios have been taken off the page, but of course Set is still... No, Set is not available.
Set not available.
So actually, it'd be curious. Senna might not be a bad thought. Could be towards something like maybe a Zoe or something you want that blind pick, but the Elise is available.
Going for something different.
And one of the really good wins for the Hawks was when Tussle was on that Elise and kind of ran over their game on that. So not a bad pick in my eyes, but can get outscaled, and if things don't go well for the Elise in the early game, can be a bit trickier come mid-game.
We have known Hawks to be a very snowbally team when they do play things. Actually, the Yuumi being left unbanned.
That's a good thought as well.
We see Yuumi Olaf sometimes. There are a couple of weeks where it was 100% pick, 100% ban. This is not one of those weeks. It's not being picked up immediately in the first or second rounds of this pick phase. Rek'Sai locked in for Hatchametcha, another early game jungler. Not going for the least sin. Definitely going towards that other pick instead.
And it does give a lot of early game counter ganking potential. We saw Hatchametcha pull off some great ones in the first game versus the side of Appermen, who kind of got put in the dumpster a little bit by the side of the Rek'Sai being in the right place at the right time. And we've known Dasher to be a little bit bloodthirsty, a little bit hungry for those 1v1s, and if Hatchametcha pulls off that again, we could see some good stuff. And of course, it is the Varus lock-in as well.
Varus, and it's the Ezreal across from him as well. So, Honey, we talked about the the positioning thing. Ezreal Yuumi, like, that does paper over a lot of the cracks in the positioning problems, right? Because you do have the Arcane Shift, you do have the Yuumi for the extra peel as well. Maybe this means that Honey will have a larger impact on the game. We have seen him have some very impressive games when he's built up onto his items, not coming in with a massive deficit against his other opponents. But it's a really good Varus. And he's got a Nautilus with him too.
And Nautilus is pretty good into Yuumi as well. You can interrupt her trying to dash between people. You can stun her and make her feel a bit miserable. So you can, if you time things right, punish with the Nautilus. And remember, this is Rascal Jesters, and they do play Varus mid. So there may be a little bit of switch around yet. Lucian banned away. Dasher didn't manage to pick the win up on it, but looked good on it.
The laning phase was good. And some of the team fights were pretty good too.
Yes.
He managed to find some openings across the map, like obviously roamed down to the mid lane and got a kill onto the Silas there, which was Rocky on Bancore. We see the Azir banned away from Ninja. He was very powerful on that pick when they took up their win versus CGA. That was that crazy turnaround late game team fight, even though they were so massively far behind in that game. So something to be aware of.
And the Vladimir taken as well. Vladimir does have a lot of strength. Some of that AoE team fight destruction that he can bring. See what the last ban is here from the Hawks. It could well be something towards the mid lane. You think perhaps the Zoe wouldn't be a bad
safe top lane as well.
Yeah, safe top laner wouldn't be a bad call. The Cannon. Kolkok had a great game on that earlier. So
I think what the Hawks are looking for is an abusable lane top lane. They've basically banned away 4 champions from the top lane, which are very hard to really put under the caution top lane, and they still pick a 5th in the Renekton anyway, so Kolkok's going to have somewhat of an immovable object in the top lane. There are some champions which do okay into it, Maybe Dasher will go back to the likes of the Camille. That's very much a skill matchup because of the Renekton change to his W, where he stops dashes with his empowered, not slice and dice, the other thing.
Call them Meek.
Columnic, yeah.
Or in a Ruthless Predator.
Ruthless Predator,
That's
that's
what
what
it
the
is.
stun. It's the
Aatrox.
Aatrox like instead. Okay.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And also, of course, it does stop the Renekton Elise combo by taking it away as well. We'll see what the last pick is for the mid lane here.
very
Zoe's
true,
still available for something like Ramen if he wants to go towards that. He's thinking about the
That's true.
Cassiopeia, though, which does make some sense.
Scaling is the name, but against the Rek'Sai, that is quite abusable in the mid lane if it is a bad matchup. I don't know what Ninja's going to go towards. It could be the Poke Varus. It's actually pretty okay into Cassiopeia and the likes of other no-dash mid-range
Syndra
carries.
is being hovered here.
If Syndra is picked...
Ooh,
oh,
go
please do it.
on,
Oh
Ninja.
my God, do it.
This is what he was famous
Do it,
for.
do
It's
it,
what
do
his
it.
name was going back towards the
No,
Syndra.
I was so
He
ready.
was thinking about it. He really was. This is a
You
guy
know
who...
this is still a flex pick.
It is. Absolutely. It could still be a Syndra bot. I
Sorry,
doubt
no,
it.
you said it was... I cut you off.
Yeah.
You had an interesting point.
But yeah, it's okay. And actually, it's fair to say that I don't think Art is that much of a Syndra. Much more towards the traditional marksman side of things. Ninja knows how to play a Syndra. Cassiopeia Syndra is one of those matchups we've seen for many years. It means there's a double cleanse actually in for the side of the which was the Hawks.
Game,
Had a moment of madness, but Cassiopeia and Ezreal both taking that up.
It's not quite as bad as having Sengoku versus the Hawks because you've got SG, SHG. We have flubbed that so many times on cast.
Not good. We should be able to get that, but those acronyms, those sort of appellations, those shortened names, we do mess up occasionally.
Maybe we can do a Kickstarter goal. Maybe we can do a Kickstarter, like fund the LJL Unofficial. Be like, our first one will be like $500. No longer messes up the Hawks and Sengoku. Like, maybe we can hold that over your heads and say, well, one day we'll get it right, but maybe when we're paid. Well, we're loading into game for the last game of our day of the LJL Unofficial. We have a very early game in some ways with some scaling from the Cassiopeia, in the other ways from the Hawks on one side. On the other side, we got some mages, we got some range, we got some classics in the Renekton and the Rek'Sai as well from the Jesters.
And we have quite a lot of dive potential in this top side from both teams. Rek'Sai, Renekton, not a bad duo for those early game ganks. Neither is Elise Aatrox.
But this is why I normally at that point I was like, oh, this one's like a team fight comp or a skirmish comp. I'm like, I mean, they kind of have a bit of everything to both teams, right? I think on the side of the Jesters, you have the Chains of Corruption, you got the Scatter of the Weak, you got the point and click stun, and then the knock up from the Renekton and the Rek'Sai accordingly, and then of course the Yuumi with the final chapter, which means that you do have a lot of somewhat skirmish, somewhat pick potential from the side of Jesters, but it is multi-applicable. On the other side, you have Elise, you have Cassiopeia. Cassiopeia very much more of a team fighting champion, at least much more of a skirmish champion. But if you do cocoon someone up in front of Cassiopeia, that's still a dead person in a team fight too.
And Ramane did actually switch back from that cleanse to a heal at the end there, so not the double cleanse actually.
Oh wait, I forgot that the Yuumi was on the other side. So I forgot what I said about that last thing.
Yeah, and of course, actually, it's pretty long range poke from a Syndra with a QE, and of course Varus with his piercing arrows. But Ezreal Yumi's no slouch in that department either.
That's the thing, right? Both of these teams are actually quite evenly matched in terms of what their capabilities are, which is why I'm quite looking forward to this game. You have two junglers which have somewhat of ability to affect topside, or other lanes they have early ganking, early clear potential, but then they somewhat fall off. You have two scaling mid laners which have the ability to skirmish, have the ability to team fight. Bot lane, you got poke. You have somewhat engage, you have somewhat disengage as well from the CC afforded to you from there. Top laners are your bruisers. Both of these teams will be looking to do similar things. It's a case of who is better at doing it now in this game.
What I will say is I think the Hawks have a little bit of a better disengage with the Petrifying Gaze and the final chapter, whereas I think Rascal Jester is going forwards with a Nautilus, with the Chains of Corruption, with the stuns, with the flashes from Rek'Sai, with slice and dice in from the Renekton. I kind of see Rascal just going forward a little bit more, and the Hawks potentially holding back a little bit.
But then you also have an Aftershock support instead of a Yuumi, right?
Yes.
I mean, I guess that the Yuumi can kind of put down the ult and say, hey, I guess no one's coming through here. But then you have also the Chains of Corruption, very good at disengage. You also have the Scatter of the Weak, also pretty good at disengage. Hook does not land from there.
Thought the Honey might step forward a bit more. Does at least get the Aftershock down, but does get poked out a bit as a response for his hubris stepping forward there. And of course, it is Yuumi and Aatrox. The healing from Yuumi on top of Aatrox is pretty obnoxious when he has World Ender running. Does get so much healing back from the passive of that ultimate.
I think what I like from the Hawks is that if any of their members get ahead, they have viable ways to team fight. If Aatrox gets ahead, you can dive onto pretty much any of the members, really. I think if Aatrox gets ahead of the Renekton and starts winning the side lane as well, that's another thing you can play around. But then obviously Cassiopeia and Ezreal do scale up into team fights remarkably well in the current meta.
That they do, and I will be keeping an eye on where these early junglers turn up. Hachimecha has already found his way to the top lane. And that
he has
could
very
be...
early.
Yeah, he's going to go straight
he's
in.
going
Flash
straight
in for that Ruthless Predator. Dash is only level 2. He could be in trouble as you burn that Umbral Dash.
Oh, he
there
just
we
kills
go. First blood over to this Renekton, and another good early pathing game from Hachimecha on this Rek'Sai.
And as we say that, speak of the devil, and you do mention it, the Rascal Jester coming out with a winning vote on the Twitter poll there. Fans coming out strong for the team on the red side.
And it feels like the Hawks support has dissipated after that last game. It didn't go very well for them at all. And this time around, the Rascal Jester's picking up that fan vote, as you were saying. And it's looking like they may be right. The minute is a level advantage, and Dash has just turned up to get Slice, Dice, and Ruthless Predator down to a quarter HP. And he's tagging up this wave!
He might die for that.
He's got to be very, very careful. Cog is thinking about going for a Slice and Dice in for a kill here. Dash having to back away from the wave and burn his healing pot.
Use his Q. He's just... I guess maybe he's waiting for his next Q cooldown. It's coming up in 3 seconds. This could be
Look at he's waiting for the Empowered Rage. And look, Hachimecha is back. They're thinking about diving them. It's going to possibly dissuade.
Oh, no, Dash is going forward. No, the Rek'Sai is here, Dasher. Don't do it.
He's going to be around.
He's flashing!
Is he going to be able to get this? He might not. There's still a lot of damage. Dasher will get traded back. Oh, he does get it.
Deathbringer stance does come out big there.
But it's going to be a 1-for-1.
Flash.
It's going to be a 1-for-1. He's got the Umbral Dash, maybe. You're going to see whether... He's just desperate to get it.
Oh,
he misses the Praise Seeker.
Oh,
he's going to walk away.
That was actually so close. The initial setup for that play was so awful because Dasher TP'd in, trying to hold up a huge wave, took up the minion, aggro, and then also Cog kind of like wailed on him as well. We now see Tussle up in the top lane.
Tussle's here, gonna slice away, and that Cocoon was very late, so it was
pretty late. Repel kind of up into nowhere. It's just like saying, hey, I'm here, cool. Looks like he's going to help Dasher push in the wave just so it doesn't get frozen again. I think Dasher was a little bit at risk there of getting badly traded on from the Renekton. This top lane has been fireworks and rainbows and everything in between. I don't even know what's even in between fireworks and rainbows. They're both in the sky, so maybe clouds.
Stars, moons, suns, eclipses, all these things. We're still around, and so is Hachimecha. Round 3 fight, but it's going to turn around very quickly. Hachimecha turning up meant that dive got cancelled pretty swiftly, and it's an Executioner's calling actually early for this Renekton, who did manage to go back with significantly more gold when he did go back.
He did. Went back with about 20 CS and the assist to his name as well, so, about 300, 400, well, it would have been 800 gold for the Executioner's calling, all things said and done. It's a good pickup into the Aatrox lane, in particular because he does have so much healing over the course of it, and when you're trying to brawl with him in melee, you do want to stop as much of that as possible.
You do. Looking at the rest of these lanes, it's pretty even. It's slight CS leads currently to the Cassiopeia and the Syndra, but I imagine they'll get cleaned up now as they pick up the last of their waves. It's been an early back out for Ramune, who's gone back for his Mana Crystal and, of course, a tier as well, so not going to be running out of sort of mana to be throwing his Twin Fangs out anytime soon. I was about to
the throwy things.
Yeah,
the
bitey thing.
Some backs here.
Yeah,
he doesn't get it. Oh.
That would have been a very dead Yuumi. If he'd known, the flash auto would have been it.
Well, an E would have been it. Anything would have been it at that point. There is no flash on a Yuumi. You don't take that summon spell on the count in the book.
Oh, he was very close. That was risky. But look who's back. Tussle's here. We're going to have the Dominus is now popped. Slow is put down with the chilling smite. Cog gets the stun. He's going to have to repel up though because he's taking a lot of damage straight. And he gets a big healing actually. And there's nobody here. Tussle does get the Renekton, but it was a lot closer than I was expecting.
Why didn't you play-by-play the camera pans? That was the important thing, not the kill. The camera pans. We saw Ramune take a blast plan.
That was very exciting. The Ramune took the blast plan, but I was so late to call it.
Yes, you were. Well, calming down. Okay. We go from 100 to 0 to 100 real quick. We see Hachimecha taking the first dragon of the game as recompense for the Hawks' kill onto Cog in the top lane. It's going to be the Infernal going over the way of the Rascal Jesters.
It's still actually a slight gold lead to the Jesters despite the 2 kills going to their name. I imagine that's in part because of the first blood. But for now, it is very close in terms of the gold, and that early advantage for Renekton has now been nullified largely. But first Drake over to Rascal Jester, they're going to feel pretty happy about that.
You do get, like, I don't know, 50 gold from a dragon. Maybe
that's it. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, something like that. Oh, also the other thing will be that the solo kill from Dash onto Cog was exactly that. A solo kill, none of the extra 150 gold coming in from the assist onto that.
Course,
so
yes.
that might even things up, even though there were 2 kills to 1. You do get 400 gold for the first blood, 150 gold split in an even pot amongst the recipients of assists, and then 300 kills normally.
Yeah, so there you go. That's probably largely where it is from. You're right. But remember, Herald spawning in 20 seconds. Are we going to see any early rotations up there? Tussle and Hatchemecha will be on that side of the map when it comes up. And it's not like Dasher and Cog have been afraid to brawl thus far.
Nope.
So I wouldn't be entirely surprised to see a bit more pressure up here
Damn,
as the Rift Herald comes up.
It's a shame, really. I preferred melee.
Ah,
No, no one.
no, I'm there with you. That was pretty good.
Tough crowd.
Well, I think I think we've got the Hawks have the advantage because they can wave dash up in that top lane. So it's
Okay, that's a bit more in depth. See, I know the individual games of the Smash series, and we're doing the LJL, so I'm like, okay, Nintendo stuff, that works, that's fine. I don't know anything about the actual games.
That's fair. That's fair. But of course, Melee very famous for its wave dashing mechanic. Go check that out. We won't go into it. It's the wrong game. Puns aside, the puns have been done. There'll probably be more, let's be real. Look who's casting. But we're going to see some more pressure on the spot side. Actually, decent chunk coming in onto Vivid, but pressure, at least for now, for Art and his partner as they
he's actually gone for the Comet Poke build here.
Oh, he has? I just realised that. Yeah, he has going towards lethality here, and that's significant poke. It is versus a Yuumi, though.
It's actually more lane dominant than the regular Varus. It's just that you don't have the same kind of 2-item spike that AD carry Varus has within team fights. It plays very differently, as we talked about before. We have seen it a couple of times. Actually, the Chains of Corruption landed there on Honey. Arrow misses.
But that Dredgeline does not.
The ult goes
Honey
the other way.
takes a massive amount of damage. Honey, now forced away, has got himself a Yuumi there to keep him alive. But I think that's going to be more pressure on this lane, at least to play over. But Art's pretty low as well.
That's an oopsie. I think if that ult hits onto Art, he could be in some serious trouble there, because Pooh might have been able to hop off and auto for the final bit of damage there.
All summoners burned by the Hawks. That's not a good looking asset. That's 2 games in a row where Honey and Pooh are struggling in this lane.
It's a heal, a flash, a cleanse, and an exhaust down from the bot lane. Hatchemecha finds his way up into the top lane here, but the wave is on the side of the Hawks, so there's no chance of a real dive there. Just a bit too close to the tower, which means Hatchemecha will back off and start the Herald instead. There may well be a fight around here. Ninja's on vision.
So is Ramune, though, and Tussle is coming up. It will be a contest. Hatchemecha's got a tunnel in the back of this pit. May need to use it. Are we going to see a fight? Dash is going to be the first one to rotate. Yeah. But Vivid is here as well. So is the Art. It's going to be a 5-on-5 because you can see both bot lanes actually on their way.
Hawks
here we go. I don't know whether they do because they got a cocoon onto Vivid. It takes a lot of damage, but it's not as much as you would think and has got enough damage. And actually, Honey's in a bit of trouble. Cog is here, and the Rift Herald is resetting a touch, but the fight continues. That arrow did sting, and Pooh can only heal one person up at a time. Both teams going to back away for now. Ninja and Vivid looking to get some mid lane pressure.
Okay, maybe we got a bit too hypey about the arrow, but it still gets a good chunk out, and maybe that was enough to dissuade the Hawks from fighting over this at this point in the game. I think you.
I'll take it. I think you'll. I'm waiting. My bated breath as you cough your way to a point.
What was I going to say, actually? I was going to say, I think you really want to wait for a couple of items onto your Cassiopeia and the Ezreal until you really start fighting. Art is so much stronger than Honey at this point. He's throwing out the arrows, maxing that Q, and having lethality on top of it. Whereas you've got a tier. The Sheen is okay for the Ezreal, but it's just not nearly the same as the teamfight presence that the Nautilus and the Varus would have at this point in the game.
Yes, and of course the fact that Sheen isn't bad. You're right, but that's very close to either a Ghost Blade or a Dusk Blade. Because I suppose actually can Zumble Blade build out of those items as well?
No. So it built out of a Dirk and 2 longswords. No, so it's actually slightly cheaper, which is nice. And it still gives you the 10% CDR, not as much lethality, and obviously a different passive though.
Yeah, but Ghost Blade is so key on that Varus. You can pop it, keep yourself moving a little bit faster when you are slowed by your Qs, and that's always a nice touch.
It is indeed.
And that means that Tussle right now going towards the Raptor Invade, but that also leaves Hatchemecha free as the Mountain Drake second will be spawning here, and that'll be the second Drake full Rascal Jester as well if they do claim it.
Still no summoners available for the spot lane. Lisa's on top side. Ramene's been seen in mid as well. He might even get ulted.
He thought about it, uses the phase rush to get out. He thought about going back in there for the kill.
It's just a Herald drop bot lane actually. I think that they decided that they've had enough of this bot lane turret. Takes over
so much gold towards.
Another couple of plates. It doesn't actually take down that last one. We'll need another wave in there as well.
Vivid has found his way onto the spider, who goes up on her web, but it's on fire and she is burnt to a crisp.
Oh, that's pretty sad. That is the first death of the game for Tussle on the Elise. 1-on-1 there. Had been doing pretty well in the early game, but does get caught out just
Vivid's
before that
not
Dragon
done.
Star.
He's just going to continue to be in this jungle. This diving suit is a little bit of a terror. finding his way into all of the spaces over in this red side jungle, and it means that Hachimecha is uncontested as he picks up the second Drake that we were talking about earlier.
Absolutely. So dragon stacking is going the way of Rascal Jesters. Gold is going the way of Rascal Jesters. Kills are 2. It's another 570 into the pocket of Art as the first tower goes down alongside the 5 plates on that. He's going to be a very happy Varus.
He is, and yes, Dasher has a bit of an advantage, at least in terms of levels up here right now, but Cog did well enough to clean out the wave, means that no more pressure's coming down, and Rascal Jesters are very much out to an early lead here, especially because the Varus has gone back, finished a go speed, and picked up a second Dirk.
Has picked up a second Dirk. He is so strong at this point of the game. Like, okay, it's not too much when you see it like that, but when he gets stacked up with the Blighted Quiver stacks, and then he has his Chains of Corruption as well to keep stacking them up as well, he does a lot of damage on quite low cooldowns when he's building towards that particular build.
Well, Tussle is here with Pooh. Red Ninja step forward. He's looking for that execute. Oh, he gets it! I thought he was done. I thought that pass after the Unleashed Power didn't kill him. I thought it was done, but the last Q.
Stepped into the Q there. Thought he'd have the Yuumi to attach to him. They had the Summoner heal available too. A miscalculation and a misstep by Ramune on the Cassiopeia there. That's going to be a lot of pressure now. They don't have their mid laner to respond to this top lane play.
Solo kill 1v3. We had some questions about Ninja earlier on in this split. Hachimecha takes a big chance there from the True Shot barrage, but that's about it. We had questions about Ninja bringing that back. We were worried about what he was doing in games, where he was getting caught out, how much he was getting done, but a 1v3 solo kill with style is what you like to see as playoffs are looming, and the Jesters are looking better and better. That was no joke.
It was no joke at all. Lands all of his skill shots so far. Let's keep tracking him. Hits 3 Qs in a row. Hits the stun as well. Goes through with the ult. Steps into the last one. The heal didn't come through from the Yuumi, and even then it would have been a pretty close run thing. You know what the scary thing about that is? This is a Syndra without even built up to a Ludens or a GLP yet. It has the Sork Boots and the Lost Chapter, but that's by no means a strong Syndra at this point in the game. It's really well played from Ninja. Didn't even have to blow a Summoner, and gets out with a good haul there, we'll call it.
And that was a tried to bait to drown. I'd used his heal in that trade. It wasn't enough, and that one step cost them everything there. And the Hawks are once again in a position where they're starting to bleed not just objectives but kills.
But so the Chains of Corruption do miss there, which do change the situation a bit. The thing about that play is that I don't think that the Hawks should have been looking for a play mid anyway. I think that they really want to see if they can just get this Cassiopeia to start scaling up. They don't really want to put her in harm's way. And every time you commit to the mid lane like that, Art gets an advantage on the side lane, or Cog gets an advantage on the side lane. We see that there's a Black Cleaver built up for the Aatrox, not the Aatrox, well, it is built up for him as well, for the both top lanes. But on the other side, Art has himself so many items and a 30 CS lead in this matchup.
And it's not like your lethality items are all that expensive. You hit those spikes so quickly, so fast, and even though they're not necessarily as expensive, dominant maybe as say an IE.
Oh,
if
that's
people
a
actually
move
going to turn
forward
this around, because it's a big final chapter. But well done, Vivid, for getting that stun down, and Hachimecha was there as well. There is a Dasher in the backline, and the Flash has already been burnt, so that's going to be a shutdown onto Art, and it's all going a bit wrong. But yeah, you're right. Cog is here, and he's got a good Cole the Meek, and he's doing as much as he can. Dasher is going to claim a kill onto Vivid though, and well done by the Hawks and Dasher to turn this fight around with Yuumi on top of him. The heals are massive. So is Ninja though, and he's in a bit of an odd spot. Has got a cleanse and a flash and doesn't need to use them, but we were talking about the Hawks were starting to bleed objective. That was well played. So Aatrox Yuumi is such a good combo.
So I think that ends up being a 1 for 2. It was a bit messy there trying to keep track of everything. I think Ninja got a little bit caught up in trying to finish up some of these kills onto Honey and Tussle in the backline there, because they were quite low from the start of that play. Hachimecha had a good entry into that fight, just didn't manage to finish off the rest of the kills. Dashi comes through with a well done with the Yuumi on top of him, and well, we'll see exactly what happened here. So the TP is committed. Honey jumps into a lot of damage immediately, has to flash out, but it's the first kill going over on Tussle. So actually that was the kill that came through. Dasher with a great flank though, finished off the Varus, no flash available to him, and then gets the World Ender running with the extra healing from Yuumi, as we talked about in Champions League. That's a whole lot of HP coming back.
And the whole lot of love that Aatrox had to share was basically leads him with 3 kills to his name after the end of this fight. He's looking pretty strong. And Tussle gets massively chunked. I think he's about to die. Has to flash out of the back. Vivid gets pulled back by the Infernal Chaser and does go down for a 4th kill for Dasher, who is doing a lot of work in the backline. But now Tussle's stuck off to the side. Art slays him there. And Coco slices and dies over the back. And yes, Ninja slayed Honey somewhere in the background. It does mean that Ramane gets a kill onto Renekton, trying his best. But like Ramane's flashing onto Art. But that was a huge 1-for-1 in the end because the arrow did land. But Ninja now running away from this Aatrox with the Yuumi on top. The Cull, the Meek, or Scout of the Week rather, does try to get him back, but that was a good prowling projectile. Means it's a shutdown as well. Dasher, 5-1-on-2 on this Aatrox is the Hawks' hope. We talked about Yuumi Aatrox, and that's 2 fights in a row where it was massive. 3 for 3, I think, in the end.
Cry Havoc and let loose the Hawks of War. They do come around with a huge fight around that Herald. Herald itself not actually taken, but that's not the point. Dasher has now a 2,200 gold lead, or thereabouts, onto Cog on the Aatrox. He has a 1,600 gold in inventory, the most gold in the game. This is a very strong Aatrox.
And how on earth does Art stay away from him? Like, there's only so much you can do.
Chains of Corruption, that's it.
Chains of Corruption, that's what you've got. And actually, I do apologize. It was a 4-for-1 because Vivid went down as well. But that means that it was the 4th fight for the Hawks, and they're going to claim the Rift Herald in response. On the other side, though, the Jesters pick up a Cloud Drake. They are now at Soul Point. And Honey's in trouble. Here comes a Depth Charge. You can't Arcane Shift away from that. And there is still an Execute available from the Rek'Sai. And she claims the life of Honey. He was way... Well, you think he'd be safe there, but no. Good roam from Vivid, rather.
Clever girl. Hachimetra comes over the wall, comes out, and teams up with Vivid to kill off Honey there for the 2nd time this game, who's been put a little bit under the dumpster here again in this game, having a bit of a tough time trying to find farm. Anyway, that was next to his inner turret, just a reminder there. That's normally a safe place to be farming at any point during the game, until like later on when you start getting Baron buffs involved. That's just... bit of a sad situation for the Hawks.
And that's another good roam from Vivid. And just look at those wards in the red side, because actually, it's all well and good saying it's safe, but it's not safe when it's lit up like a Christmas tree for the Rascal Jesters. They've done good work to make sure they had control there. And Honey, you can Arcane Shift away from many things, but you can't Arcane Shift away from a Void Rush and a Depth Charge. 2 very good ways of focusing down this Ezreal.
Does indeed. So, checking back over the various members of the team, we still have Hachimetra sat at 3-0-2 on the Rex side. It's a pretty even game in terms of kill score, but there are some items which are pretty effective at this point in the game. We see the Varus has built up his double lethality core items of the Duskblade and the Yomu's Ghostblade as well, alongside the Ionian Boots of Lucidity, which means that he will be on 40% CDR alongside his rune choices as well. Varus at this point in the game is maybe the strongest he'll be ever in comparison to the rest of the members on this map.
He will be, and Aatrox has got himself a Rift Herald spawned by courtesy of Tussle, so he's going to be shoving in that bot lane, but the top tier 2 is claimed by Rascal Jesters. It might well be a 2-tower trade, though, because Aatrox is looking to continue pushing with that Rift Herald.
Yes, he is. So, and this is one of the things I said about the draft, which I liked about the Hawks, is that regardless of who gets fed in terms of the 3 laners, the lane carries from the Hawks, it's pretty okay for them. They have ways to play around them. Aatrox, as we've seen, has been tearing apart team fights with the Yuumi on top of him as well. But it doesn't, and if he does buy enough time and enough space for the Cassiopeia and the Ezreal to do something, that's great too, because they're also capable of carrying this game.
Yeah. Bot tier 2 did not go down, probably sensibly because there was people coming out from Rascal Jester to try and contest, but it means that Aatrox does back away, but he is filthy strong right now. He's on his way to a 3rd item, looks like a Death Dance, so... Black Cleaver, Sterex Gauge, Death Dance, Yuumi on top of him.
He's like
this man will be an utter nightmare.
He's an item and a half ahead of Cog.
Who is looking to go towards a Stone Plate second by the looks of it with that armor, with Chain Vest in. Yeah, and he's got a stopwatch as well, make a lot of sense.
Could also be a GA.
Could also be a GA, that would make some sense too. Actually, that makes a lot of sense thinking about it.
I think Stone Plate Renekton isn't awful, and if you want to be a tank front line when you're not that far ahead, that is something you can play. Okay,
big response from Yuumi, so you go, ooh,
I was like, this is confusing now. What do I do?
Fireworks continue.
It's like that time where, those times where you find a Reddit comment where you kind of like half agree with it. You read the first part, like, yeah, I agree with that, I'm going to go for it. And you read nothing, you're like, actually, I don't know now.
Yeah.
Stuck halfway between the up and the down.
Yeah, and indeed, God was in the first half.
Not gonna lie.
I gotta stop with the random meme references. Either way, Hachimetra and Cog now invading in on this red buff. Do take that away. And to the Jester's credit, they have maintained control of this side of the map. pretty much since minute 10 or so, when the Jesters caught out Tussle in the bush that they're recalling in right now.
Yeah, that was a while ago now, but yeah, I can hardly. I was like, wait, when did that happen? Wait, that did happen earlier in this game. 22 minutes in, there's a 2k goal lead over to the Rascal Jesters, but honestly, the ball's been in the Hawks' court for a little time now. They're starting to trade, group in this mid lane. If they do get down this outer turret, that will set them up to start trying to push down the Baron, which is very good because they do have an Ezreal and a Cassiopeia, both of which are pretty great at taking that objective.
It is a level 13 to a level 10 between Ninja and Honey, and if he can land an Unleashed Power with his Oblivion Orb and so complete max flat pen, there is room for Honey to just disappear. But they do claim the mid-tier 1 there, and that means it's 3 towers to 4, and this game is significantly more even than we were necessarily anticipating after how the early game went for the Jesters.
Yeah, true. So one thing we're going to have to keep an eye on is that there is only one cleanse available from the side of the Hawks, so if you do get hit by a Chains Corruption, things are still going to go pretty badly for you.
Yes.
There is a Banshee's Veil on Ramune. That's fine. That gives you that one little bulwark, which means you can't get fired. You know you can block the first skill shot, but if that is ever popped, you don't have the health of something like a Leandries or a Rylai's or a Morello coming in for that second item, which might protect you more against the likes of the full burst coming out of Art on this Varus.
And there is quite a lot of ways to pop that Banshee's Veil from range as well, between a Varus, a Syndra, and Prey Seekers coming in from the Rek'Sai as well. This is Cloud Soul on the line, and the Jesters are set up for it, by the way. Summoners up pretty much across the board. Banshee's Veil is popped. We called how easy it was. Dash has found his way onto the flank, but that misses. It does indeed, and the fights continue. It's double control ward in the back of the pit from the Hawks, though. Just desperate to maintain a bit of control. That arrow actually missed, and Dash is now going to get the zoom he's thought about going forwards there. Doesn't matter, and everyone backs away.
The thing about this Aatrox is that he doesn't necessarily want to tank up 5 people at the same time. He's pretty happy doing it with 2 or 3. Oh, they do pop the World Ender now, actually.
They're going but that's a great scat of the week to push back the Aatrox.
And a Chains Corruption too, actually.
Oh, man alive.
Oh, he might... Oh, Ramune gets
caught. He's going to get stunned, and he's going to go down. Oh, Ninja claims that it's now a 4v5, and the teleport's coming in from behind. Renekton is here. Dominus is popped. Honey is behind, and Dasher gets flashed on. No Zoomies to save you this time. Shut down to the Rek'Sai, and that's 3 dead because Pooh went down alongside him.
Baron.
And that is Baron over. We were talking about the Hawks were back in this game. They're not anymore.
Oh, everything falls apart at the hinges of the Hawks there. Ramune sticks around and gets hit by the secondary activation of the Varus ult. Gets caught by Vivid afterwards. A huge, huge miscalculation from Ramune there. Had the flash available. Chose to get caught up in that Varus AoE. Goes down. The team fight goes with it, as does the Baron. It could even be their playoffs going with it.
It could well be. Tussle didn't even try and go for the Cloud Drake. Too many wards on there. It means they're not even going to be able to stop the Cloud Soul from coming across. Rascal Jester's going to pop across and pick that one up as we go into this replay.
Okay, right. So we saw briefly before this Dasher thought about going forwards with the World Ender. He does here. Chains of Corruption land. Then you have the Scatter the Weak landing. You see then Ramune gets caught by the Varus ult on its secondary activation. Skill shots come through, but a heal ain't enough to save him. Then the teleport comes in. The stopwatch really doesn't do much for Dasher here. A flash is over, but then again, the fight's just over when you've already lost the first person so early into the fight.
Yeah, it was a 3 for none. It was a Baron. It is the Cloud Soul, and the Jesters are back in command. The Hawks look to be coming back, and maybe they can still, with the Aatrox, who is still very strong, but this Baron's going to be a nightmare for them to push it to stop.
It's going to be a nightmare because you're against a siege comp. You're going to have arrows flying at you. You're going to have the orbs from Syndra as well. There's a lot of stuff which Rascal Jesters can throw at them. There is an Edge of Night completed on Art, alongside a Last Whisper as well. Very, very strong on the Varus. And with the extra base movement speed you get from the Cloud Soul, he means that he's going to be much harder to lock down from the Aatrox now as well.
And look at these arrows just coming through. It's going to pop the Banshee's Veil
so much
this
damage.
time. I know, but the Banshee's Veil has got a tussle. It's about to get flashed on, but no, he does get away for now. Dasher is there. Cog's on the side, and they're desperately trying to keep away as they go for a 1-4 split, do the Jesters. It's Cog, and it was the GA picked up. It wasn't Stoneplate. He is pretty strong at this point on the Renekton. Just a lot of disruption in the backline. Another wave taxied in from this mid lane, and the push continues. How do they clear these minions? They've got
so much damage.
How do they can't step forward?
One arrow onto Ramune. One arrow.
And they can't step forward to clear the minions because every time they do, they're at threat of being all of their health bar.
Oh, they're going onto Ninja?
They are, but it's another good scatter the week to throw the stun onto this Aatrox. Every time he steps forward, Ninja has been hitting those lately, and that means that Cog free to push in over here.
So that's a tower gone down in the bot lane. We'll be pushing onto the inhibitor turret now. I actually think there's a tiny bit of that wave left. Yeah, and so the miasma goes down from the Cassiopeia, but every time they step up, they're risking being hit by the next CC. The next CC could be their playoffs gone.
They're going to find
It lands on Honey!
He is in trouble. He has got to cleanse away. Vivid does pull back, though, and they thought that might have been the entry, but it means the cleanse is at least down. Cog now trading on to Dasher. Tussle was coming over, but it's over, and the inhibitor is still under threat. There's still 20 seconds. There's still a wave left. Can the Hawks defend this inhibitor? I don't think they can.
They have no cleanse on Honey now. They don't have a Nautilus ult to contend with either, though. Art takes a chunk of damage. That might be the signal
Big
that
tree
they
shot
start
barrage.
to back off here. I don't think the Rascal Jesters wants to keep staying here.
Honey is playing with his life, does manage to arcane shift out of that cold
Oh
mimic,
my
but he
God.
doesn't avoid the piercing arrow. Pooh is there, though, brings Honey up to at least a modicum of HP. They are going to back away. They're not going to take the inhibitor. That is a big deal. The Rascal Jesters lost a little bit too much of their HP bars.
They did, so that'll be the end of the Baron push. They do net themselves a couple of turrets and an open inhibitor, but brutally, they do not claim one of the inhibitors themselves.
And for now, the Hawks are still in the game. For now, they have some options. Honey does have 2 items complete. Trinity Force Muramana is there. Aatrox is strong. Cassiopeia has got a Seraphs, a Banshees, a Rhyalize. Those 3 items are pretty strong. There are team fights they can win, but if they keep suffering from this poke, they won't get the option.
The problem I have now for Ramune is that even if you're stood in range to do damage, you're in range of probably 2 or 3 members of the Rascal Jesters. They have the run of the map. They get to choose where they get to group. If you are running into multiple people and not just hitting on the one target as the Cassiopeia, good chance are you're going to die before you get out enough DPS to live.
And Syndra is only a level away from 16, where that unleashed power will be 100 to 0 for threat.
The counterplay button? Yeah.
Yeah, that counterplay button will be available, and the counterplay is death. That's what it is.
It's like open file location for like the unleashed power. It's just fungameplay.exe.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
That's it.
And even if you survive it, you've still got piercing arrows to contend with. You've still got Void Rush executes to contend with. Honey has to play these fights on the edge of his seat if they want to win them. Ramune has to play them on the edge of his seat if he wants to win them. And it's looking harder and harder because they are down 8k as well at this point.
Art has picked up the full Lord Dom's regards. He has so much armor penetration at this point in the game.
Those are some regards.
Yeah. Earlier in the game I said, at 2 items he's stronger compared to everyone than he will be in the entire game. He's so far ahead of the curve right now. He is absolutely crapping on HP bars. So much damage. His DPM is going to be nuts after this game.
And there aren't that many people on the side of the Hawks who actually build true tank that's. Who wants to build that much armor? It means with all of that penetration built already, there's going to be very few. That's a flash petrifying gaze that petrifies the ground, and that's it. Cog is just free pushing against his inhibitor in the mid lane. Dash is going to step forward. He's got the zoomies for speed ups if you want it, but the push, the split of the 4-1 continues, and the Hawks are desperate to find some way to stop it, and I don't think they've got that many options.
Tussle's hanging over the side there, but Hatchemet just spots it out with a good point.
Oh my days. Tussle once again.
The Ward's a World-Ender.
Yeah, World-Ender, it has been popped, but it's another good scout of the week that stops that engage. One more time, he's flashing in on Ninja, but it's a good knock-up from the depth charge. Ramune, though, has doing a lot of damage. He might be able to finally pick up Ninja, but the phase rush gets him out alive, and Dash is on minuscule HP. Oh my days, Arrow not quite enough, and actually does go back to Honey, looking to get some push onto Hatchemet. My days, maybe if Ramune had the flash that time, maybe that would have been enough, but Ninja with the clutch phase rush, getting away at the end. I thought he was dead to rights.
It saved his flash. There was a lot of damage coming in through Dasher. Dasher literally, it does feel like Dasher versus the world right now. And even with the world ender on the Aatrox, it's not working out too well for him thus far. They are now, 8,000 gold in the deficit. Something like 7, we'll call it 7,000 actually. That's probably more close to it. I can't do maths. We do see the Baron coming up now. It is available, but there is also an Elder available. There are the 2 mega buffs now on the map.
Yeah, there is, and we're looking at some attempted pressure from the Hawks, who are just trying to contain some pressure. But of course, they've got to be so careful because Honey just loses half his HP bar. And I don't care if you've got a Yuumi, she still needs time to heal you. And if that's one basic ability doing that to you, that's not even an unleashed power. That's just a basic piercing arrow doing that much work. You have to be so afraid.
Be afraid.
Oh
be
my
very
days.
afraid. At least the zoomies are doing pretty ridiculous amount of legwork here, and healing up the rest of the Hawks team. Elder has now spawned. There's no positioning from the Hawks onto Baron as it is, but if they do get on top of it with the Cassiopeia, it will go down very quickly.
And we saw Art's Arrow doing a lot of work to Honey, but less to Dasher, who at least has the HP turtles, at least has something resembling armor to be able to tank a little bit of this Varus. But on the other side, I think a Syndra who throws a good W at him, gets a good QE, can still do a lot of work versus that Aatrox.
Absolutely can do. But the dangerous thing is that if Nautilus lands a hook, you're going to be CC'd in place long enough for the Scout of the Week and all of Varus's damage to come in on top of you. That is going to kill everyone but Dasher. That is going to kill everyone but Dasher. Might even kill him as well. He has the Death Stance, which does go towards helping a lot of things. But with the Morellonomicon built up on Ninja, we're going to stop that. Thought the Baron's been started up by the Hawks, but they are peeling off.
Yeah, they are going to pull away. They've, at least this late in the game, have enough damage to maybe get through it if they're left alone with it. But speaking of being left alone, this bot lane inhibitor turret is going to fall off. Yeah, and they don't know this Idle Drake has happened. They're still around the Baron. They're still posturing. They've got eyes on Cog, but they just haven't seen Hachimecha. It's not crossing their minds.
It's not crossing it for now. He's still on it. They're going to get this with it completely out of vision. Vivid has just been caught out, though.
Throws up the shield. He does have to flash out, and the teleport is through, but Cog, they're teleporting to end. Vivid's going to be down here as well. Actually, no, I think there was an interrupt on something there.
No, Dasher TP'd into the fight, but that left Cog alone in the base.
And they're going to have to try and call back. And how do you stop the backs or how do you get back when you've got arrows coming at you? Honey is here, but do you want a 1v1 with this Renekton? And the Elder Drake is still going down.
He's been at it for a minute.
And it's claimed completely free. They have that. What amazing map play from Rascal Jester. They stopped the Baron. They got the push into the base. They have stopped the Baron take as well. It's all gone wrong, along with the Elder Drake on top.
It's so nice you got to stay twice. They stopped the Baron, they took the Elder, they also stopped the Baron. It happens so many times that the push and pull ends up in favor of Rascal Jester. They now have the Elder, as you were saying. They already had the Cloud Soul. They might go back for that Mega Buff, but as we see Cog getting aggressed onto here, we want to see what Rascal Jester are going to do in response.
And what is a world ender to a Darkstar Varus who will have done his own fair share of world ending and game ending buffs with an Elder Drake on top of him, mean those piercing arrows are going to be truly destructive, and unleashed power will be grey screens for anybody who is even caught by incidental damage from this Syndra. The push continues. There's one Nexus Tower remaining. Tussle has got to be so afraid of the executes from the Elder Dragon. The push continues. Ramune takes poke. Pooh can't be everywhere. Dash is going to try and go forwards. The combo of Aatrox and Yumi's
the Elder Dragon!
And we called it world ended. And we're going to continue to push. It's 4v5. The Nexus is exposed. The hopes and dreams of the Hawks are dying to the Elder Dragon fire. And Dasher, world ending. It's only his own. Pooh is here. The cat is dead. It's a triple for this Varus. And it's 16-8 in kills. 7-7 will Rascal Jester end this split. And they are secure for now in third place. And the Hawks, commiserations. They end their split 4-10.
4-10 after what seemed like such a hopeful start. Game goes to Rascal Jester. It's the end of both of these teams' regular splits. Alexi, Mass One, commiserations to your team, obviously being one of the person of us who is closest to the Hawks. What that game?
I think that sums up all of my emotions about that. That was, Dasher tried. Dasher tried. Remaining questions on other members of the Hawks. We'll probably cover that far more in depth on the podcast. Well played, though, by Rascal Jester. Well played by them. I do have to give a congratulations to them. They have been playing far better over these last few weeks. They're finally gaining some consistency. Going into this, ending off their split in 7-7. They weren't looking so good a few weeks ago. They've definitely figured out some of this same mid-game, late-game points, similar to Sengoku in that same light. A team earlier, very coin flippy, looked like at the beginning of the split they could beat anybody, had a pretty questionable midpoint, but these last few weeks they've figured it out and ending 7-7. Congratulations to them.
Yeah, and I think that it was a very holistic performance from the side of Rascal Jester. I was saying that a little bit on the intro too, but I think we saw it on display there, right? We saw every member land important skill shots, team fight appropriately, put out the right damage. Cog had some really fun 1v1s against Dasher in that top lane. It got a little bit crazy, a little bit hypey. But eventually the carry duty came over to Art on the Varus. He absolutely destroyed in terms of damage. He was just putting out so many arrows.
And not just that, I do want to comment on Hatchemetra as well, who had a fantastic early game one more time on that Rex side. Yeah, he did. He did a lot of work on that champion. Did very good job of finding people in the backline, getting on top of them. Him and Vivid teamed up to find people in that red side jungle, particularly multiple times. Tussle on the Elise, no impact, it felt like. It was like 1 and 3 come mid-game compared to their 3-0-2 for Hatchemetra at that point.
The top lane was impacted by Tussle, but we did talk about the junglers falling off, and it felt like actually Hatchemetra kind of just threw that out the window and kind of did stuff anyway. Ended up deathless, I think.
Yeah, and we called it out at mid-game. Like, if that poke lands and there is a mark from Rek'Sai on top of the Ezreal, you cannot arcane shift away from the Void Rush, and that is a kind of a win condition in itself. Poke is great, but it can be difficult to finish up kills sometimes because you don't have the same consistency. You kind of need to hit those 100-0 thresholds. Rek'Sai helps with that. Yeah. Elder Dragon certainly helped with that. And having a Syndra on top of things as well was a really big deal. I mean, like, Ninja again stepped up. That 1v3 kill in the mid lane was really clutch.
Probably his best game today.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, it was up there.
And you know, this is a player with a huge amount of experience. I hadn't quite realized how experienced he was until recently. This is a guy who was way back in 2015, was on WE alongside Spirit. Like took down the GE Tigers before they had got their truly famous rosters with Peanut and stuff. This was back when it was like Lee on Lee Sin, that kind of deal. And you know, like this guy's been around the scene for so long, and we know he's kind of been in some clutch situations before. Last game of the split
comes up pretty huge, big time.
Absolutely. But with that in mind, we have had 4 teams fully complete their games, and we have 4 teams still yet to play any of their games. That's Axis, Crest Gaming Act, V3, and DFM. With how things are currently looking, I believe I'm rather confident in saying that V3 are probably a lock now for that 3rd place, 4th place slot. They're currently in 4th place because Rascal Jesters were able to work themselves up into a 2-0 win this week, so that pushes them into that 3rd place with V3 with something to play for. With only really Crest Gaming Act, Axis, and Burning Core having an argument in where things are going to end. And with that in mind, let's cover the schedule for how we're actually going to be running through. We're going to be seeing V3 face off against DFM. Then we're going to see Axis face off against DFM. To then have our big playoff game of Crest Gaming Act facing off against Axis. And then to round it out, it will be V3 Esports facing off against Crest Gaming Act.
Big game.
So,
V3 are a lock because Axis and CGA are playing against each other.
That's
Both
right,
of them cannot go 2-0. So one of them has to lose at least one, which means they will be at least one team which cannot get beyond V3.
And Burning Core have played all their games. The most they can get is to 5 wins. V3 are at 6. They're ahead of Burning Core. That puts them at very minimum into the 6th place. And that's
maximum,
right? Maximum, yeah.
Minimum, yeah. They could go anywhere between 4th, anywhere between 3rd and 6th at this point. A lot to play for V3. They've got a couple tough games towards the end of the split, but they're in. The Hawks are not, and that's a real shame. And I do kind of want to talk a little bit more about them and kind of how far they've fallen and some of the sort of commiserations towards that team. You know, we saw good things out of them at points. We saw brilliant things when Honey was on the front foot earlier in the split. We've seen Ramune and Tussle have great games together when they could be on that front foot. We saw sparks of brilliance from Dasher, even in that last game. But towards the end of the week, some of the coherency, some of the sort of objective focus hasn't been there, and it's really punished them.
Well, that's a 9-loss streak happen. Oh, 5 loss streak happening. Having 9 wins at the end. I mean, as much as I'm a fan, that their games just between the beginning and mid of this split have just been trailing. I mean, frankly,
they've been a shadow of their former selves. I think particularly in this last game, Ramune struggled. He really struggled. I think we've had question marks about Honey as well. I think both those players will have to use this gap between splits to reevaluate how they play the game in some ways, just in terms of laning phase. And the communication aspect of the team is obviously very, very important as well. It's a difficult situation because, I mean, we all have them pegged as top 3. Actually, all 3 of us
we did.
We had them in different positions within that top of 3, but we thought they would be challenging for maybe the title. this is not what they wanted to end up, and I think it is right for us to kind of spend some time talking about them at the end of this little bit. This will be the last we'll see of them for a little while.
Till summer.
Though it is quite fun to watch them until summer, which will be starting on May the 31st, by the way. Just came out today. For those of you that know.
So, with that all said, commiserations to the Hawks, the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming.
You don't have to say that until summer.
I don't. Maybe we might touch on it a fair few times, though, in our podcast, where we'll be doing some power rankings. We're going to be, first off, freshening up over these last 3 weeks that we've been having. Kind of crazy time. As well as also just playoffs the week after. We've got a bunch of content still planned for you, even when we do even hit our off-season. So don't worry, the podcast will still be coming out. We've got many topics that we are planning on covering, as well as with MSI in the distant future, as well as also with Worlds on the far horizon, but still a glimmer in the hopes for all these teams to potentially figure it out, and maybe Hawks can do a big turnaround and be the representative for the LJL. Who knows? Anything is possible. I want to hand it over to Initializer 9 Mera, as this is the end of our cast, for any closing thoughts.
It has been a day that has finally decided some of our standards. We've been waiting for it for so long. It's been so tight for so long. And at this point, we've finally lost a team. Hawks are finally out of contention. Burning Core are hanging on by the narrowest of threads. And we are starting to see things shape up. We're starting to see the arcs across the regular season come to a close. We're seeing teams that have dropped off, teams that have increased, and credit to people like DFM for the consistency. They dropped off a touch at the end, but credit to Sengoku Gaming for stepping up. More question marks around where Burning Core and SoftBank Hawks ended up. But there is still that middle of the pack yet to decide, and that'll be happening soon. And that's going to be huge. So I'm really looking forward to it. It might end up with a tiebreaker or two yet.
Yeah, there is a chance. I think I'm gonna end on a positive note, because we have been a bit dour and whatever. Like, we saw some great games today.
Oh, yeah,
I am now ridiculously excited for playoffs. I'm sat here thinking, like, which best of fives do I want to see? Which best of three? Which best ofs do I want to see? Which teams can make it further? Like, I'd love to see, Axes versus Rascal Jester, two of our more off-meta drafting teams. I'd like to see either of them against Sengoku, who are kind of Mr. Consistent team fight objective teams. And any of these teams prove they can start taking games to DFM. We saw it from Sengoku. We have a couple of games to come as well. We have 2 left games. So maybe we'll see either Axes or V3 take it to them as well on that same note. And then we have, like, some other teams just kind of hanging in around the mix. Nothing is proven yet. It is sad that the Hawks are gone, but even then, what it has proven to though, there is one thing proven. There is no bottom of the pack. Even though it ended up this way, we thought going into this split, well, okay, we can write off a couple of teams. That has not been the case. Even the top of the table has been somewhat shaky in terms of the position.
Very much so.
And it's great for us in terms of competition to have such a varied region to catch.
With that all said, it's been truly astounding to even think that we get all the way to week 7, and now we're only just losing teams halfway through the week. It's not where you're normally expecting it. If you look at other regions, there are teams that are far lower at the bottom with only a few wins to their name and a huge loss deficit, and basically being written out halfway through the split, really. We had to get to the very end of our weeks to actually get there, so keeping things very competitive. Obviously, our overlords DFM do reign supreme currently at the very top of the standings, and we'll be going in with that top seed. So if there's one thing that's consistent, at least it's DFM win.
I, for one, welcome our continued overlords.
But with that said, we will be coming right to you tomorrow, approximately 6/7 p.m. GMT, for our last 4 games of the LJL officially unofficial. Follow our social media. There is now a link below us now on our Twitch stream where you can find out about our Discord and many more
things. Real time.
I know, right?
Find out all the information you need.
Even more.
Ask us questions. We're there. Hello, everybody. But with that all said, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you very, very soon.